All right, let's get into it. So, today we're going over macros, just finding your calories, finding your macros, what should you be eating, how are you going to fill in, those carbs, fats and proteins once we figure that out. So that's going to be the goal today. I want to make this simple for you, whether you're cutting, you're bulking, whatever, even just maintaining. So, let's get into it. So what we'll cover today, just actually, like I just said, finding your calories, setting your goals, how you can hit your macros, how we're going to track and adjust those macros over time, and then just what foods to fill that in. So first, I think the easiest thing you guys can do, without giving you guys different formulas to try, whatever, or equations to do, just look up a TDE calculator. So that's your total daily energy expenditure. Just look the calculator up online. Now, these are typically going to be off by a couple hundred calories. So I would honestly probably run through like two to three of them, write down the numbers it gave you from each one, and then just average it out and start your calories, or start that being, your maintenance calories. So just a couple of recommendations over here, what you can do, the TDE calculator.net, SailRabbit, EXRX.net. You can try those and just find a good baseline to start from. So now, depending on your goal, you're going to subtract calories from that. So, let's just say, for simple number purposes, let's say it says your TDE, your maintenance calories are 2,500. I would subtract 500 from that, or 750 for like a little bit more aggressive cut, um, and start there. Now, let's just say that if you're 300 pounds and it says, your maintenance is like 3,300 or 3,500 or something like that, you can go a more aggressive diet than even 750. You can drop by 1,000 calories or so. But, for somebody that's 200, 210, something like that, like I wouldn't just start with like 1,000 calorie deficit. It's going to be a little bit too fast for you, and you're not going to be able to eat as much as somebody that has more to lose. So lean bulking, and actually lean bulking, people always say, yeah, I want to lean bulk, and then they go into a surplus of 500 calories and then wonder why they put on fat. If the goal is to put yourself in a very small surplus, just to give yourself even a little bit of an edge with gaining muscle, because you can absolutely gain muscle while you are in a deficit if you're hitting everything right. um but for an actual slow lean bulk, all you need is 100 or 200 calories above maintenance. That's going to put you around, like, a 100 calorie surplus is going to put you around, gaining a pound every like 35 days. So we'll say, a pound about a month. So this is, a slow approach, but it's going to make sure that you are not just adding on fat. Now, if you're less concerned about the fat gain, if you're on the other end of things where you're 140 pounds and you're like, man, I just want to weigh 180, I don't care what it is, how I get there, then you can go into a more aggressive surplus. Like in that example I just gave you, just because you are trying to gain so much weight, you could even go above this 300 to 500 surplus recommendation. Um, Now, I don't recommend people do that though. Like, you have to be, when you're bulking, you have to be ready to play the long game, or you are just going to get fat. Like, it's your body can only build muscle so fast. It's unreasonable for somebody to think that, oh, I'm going to gain 2 pounds a week and expect even half of that to be muscle. Like, you are maybe going to gain like zero point 0.1, 0.2 pounds of muscle a week. Like, the increments of muscle that you can actually grow are so small. And as you become more advanced into lifting, it gets smaller and smaller. Like, if you're in like your first couple months, first year, sure, then you can gain like maybe about like a pound of muscle a month to like maybe like a pound and a half a month, but it's not going to be more than that. And I mean, that's kind of even pushing it. So it just shows you, if you are bulking, you do not need to be in a big surplus at all, unless your goal is purely just to have more weight. If it is more muscle and to be lean, small surplus wins every time. So setting your macros. Now, so all you need, everybody says, 1 gram per pound of body weight. I mean, the science says all you need is 0.8. So 80% of your body weight in protein. Now, if you want like increased fullness while you are cutting, say you're not like super hungry, then, you can go to 1 gram per pound of body weight. But this is something too where your weight does definitely play a factor in. Again, if somebody is 300 pounds, it's going to be hard for you to be in a deficit if you're eating 300 grams of protein a day. So you have to take that into account. If you are like that far away from where you want to go, then set your protein at the goal you want to be. If you're 300 and you want to be 210, set your protein at 210. But if you're, 180 pounds, then you can aim for 144 to 180 grams daily. Fats, you want about 25% of your total calories. So fats are 9 grams per calorie. So literally just take, if you're eating 2,000 calories, what's 25% of that? Divide that by 9. And then that's going to give you your grams of fat for the day. So some people like a little bit higher fat and want to go 30%, especially if you are bulking. It's easier to get in a surplus if you make those fats higher. And then some people who are cutting and, if their deficit is pretty big, or if your calories are super low, you could go more towards like 20% of fat, and then, maybe just throwing in like a fish oil supplement or, omega-3s, just so you can get some more of those healthy fats in. Carbs, fill in the remainder of your calories with carbs. So carbs are going to be super important during a cut, especially for just keeping your performance good in the gym, being able to like actually build muscle. Like carbs are the biggest key for actually being able to build muscle in a deficit. People are going to think it's your protein, but if you're hitting 80% of your weight in protein and then your carbs are low, your workouts are going to be absolute shit, and then you're still going to lose muscle. So, well, just kind of talking about this, carbs have an unfair reputation. People use a study from the early 2000s where, they said carbs are bad for cutting. No, they're, in our purpose of things, great for cutting. They're your body's preferred fuel when you're resistance training. So when you drop the carbs too low, your performance suffers, your recovery slows down, and then your body is more likely to break down muscle tissue for energy, which is the exact opposite of what you want. So that's why, we want to aim to actually keep the carbs high. And even to like, if you want to center a good portion of your carbs around your workout. So let's say for number purposes, you eat 200 grams of carbs a day. You want to center about 60% of those carbs around your workout. So like before and after. So maybe, 2 hours before your workout, an hour and a half, whatever, before your workout, you'd have like a meal with 80 grams of carbs or something. And then afterwards you have a meal with 40 to 60 grams of carbs. And then for recovery purposes and just replenishing your glycogen stores that were lost during the workout. So that's always a good thing too. If your carbs are going to have to be low, you want to center them around your workout so your performance is good and your recovery is good. Okay, if I can scroll right. So giving your calories time to work, this is where a lot of people mess up, is just having patience. You start in a deficit or something and you don't see progress instantly, and then you just want to drop calories more. Start your calories, log and track your weight, your body weights. And you don't have to do this every day, because I don't like people falling in love with the scale, but for the first couple of weeks you may want to, or at least if you get like 4 or 3 weigh-ins a week, that way you can at least pull an average from it. So for cutting, I say at least keep your calories for about 2 weeks, see what your average rate of weight loss is from week to week. And if it's not going down at a pound a week, then you want to go ahead and reduce those calories by 100 or 200 calories. Um, and then if you are losing fast, great. If you are losing even too fast, and then there's risk of muscle loss, you could even raise your calories a little bit. So hold your calories for at least 2 weeks in cutting. Bulking is different because that surplus is so small, you're not going to see the scale move very fast. So you should wait at least like 4 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. See how the scales moved over that first month of your 100 to 200 calorie surplus, and assess from there and change if you need to. Now, of course, like going back to that, if you are your first 2 weeks into your bulk or something and you're losing weight, then that tells you that you are definitely under your calories. So you need to raise those up. So that would be a case where you can adjust before that 4 to 6 week period. So carbs don't need to be complicated or restricted to just clean foods. You want to focus on whole micronutrient dense sources, and feel free to include like bread and pasta too. People instantly are like, "Oh, I'm cutting. I have to cut out sugar and bread and pasta." You don't have to cut out bread and pasta. You can just pick lower calorie breads, or you can pick up micronutrient dense bread, like a whole grain bread or something like that. It doesn't mean that you have to cut them out. They're just not necessarily going to, like, if you're eating a pasta dish, it may not fill you up as much as normal. So you just have to be cognizant of that. And you also don't want to use like, calorie dense sauces or something if you're doing pasta. Find a lower calorie sauce that you can do, or and yeah, that's totally fine. So staples like white rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, oats, easy to prep, very versatile. Fruits and veggies, obviously. Honey's another quick carb source, pairing with like fruit or oats or something before your workout, or like rice cakes, anything like that. Breads, wraps, and pasta, totally fine. I don't like to eliminate those things, because especially if it's something that somebody craves, because then they're going to crave it. So then once they finally have it, they're going to overdo it. So we just implement them. So opt for like fiber wraps, especially like cutting wise. They can be a great source of just getting fiber in. If you have two like extreme wellness wraps a day or something, it's like 30 grams of fiber. That's your fiber goal for the day that you need. So I would do those whole grain bread, lower calorie versions to get more satiety and micronutrients per calorie. Apparently I can't like read today or pronounce words, but we're doing all right so far. So protein and fat sources, obviously lean protein sources, chicken breast, like a lean ground beef or turkey. I would say at least 90% lean. If you're cutting, you'd probably want something like 93.7 or 96.4. Just, it would have a little less flavor, but for macro purposes, it's going to fit your macros a lot better. Egg whites are great. White fish, cod, tilapia, very easy to cook. Greek yogurt and whey protein, convenient, fast digesting options. Quality fat sources, whole eggs. All of these things are very rich in micronutrients. So whole eggs, avocado. You have to be careful with the avocado while cutting, just because it's so easy for, you have an avocado and it doesn't do much for your fullness, but it can add like an extra 200 calories to your meal. So just be cognizant of that too. You don't want to like eat an avocado or two a day, or like 2 avocados a day. Fatty fish, omega-3s, obviously for inflammation, heart health. Peanut butter is just an easy one where it gives people like flavor, gives them something that they like. Again, you have to be careful not to overdo it, because just two tablespoons of it is like 190 calories. So have to be weary of that a little bit, but those are good fat sources. Obviously, you're going to get some fat into from your meats and everything like that. So yeah. And I know a lot of people will say like almonds, things like that. I didn't put it on there just because I think that's something where people are like, oh, I'm going to snack on almonds. And then it doesn't fill them up very much, but it adds into a lot of calories. So like if you're bulking, perfect. Snack on almonds, because you can eat a shit ton of them and it'll raise your calories. Or like sunflower seeds even. That's a very easy one too. So takeaways from this video: find your TDE, average 2 to 3 calculators for a more average maintenance, decide on a cut or bulk. So cutting, subtract 5 to 750. For a bulk, add 100 to 200. For a lean bulk, if you're less strict, 500 to even 1,000 calorie surplus. Anchor your protein 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Set this first. Be patient. Wait 2 weeks for the cuts, 4 to 6 weeks for a bulk, and then make adjustments from there. Eat real food. It's not that hard, but you don't overcomplicate it. But also, you want to have fun with it. Like why I don't like to take breads away and stuff. I'll eat protein French toast every day. It's just egg whites, a lower calorie bread, and some cinnamon, some milk, and you're good to go. Um, Also, too, like I include the wraps because then you can make like quesadillas with fat-free cheese and chicken, or tacos, or things like that, where you're still enjoying what you're eating. It's just a little lower calorie for you and higher protein. So, um, but yeah, and there are no perfect macros, only consistent macros. Pick your numbers and then stick to them long enough to get real data and adjust from there. So those macro guidelines, like I said, I think that is a great place to start for most people. Some people do prefer higher fat or higher carb. Like me personally, I like to get my carbs even up a little bit more and my fats down a little bit, just because I feel like I have more energy throughout the day with that. So you can adjust them a little bit, but I would definitely stick very close to those guidelines. And yeah, that pretty much does it from this video. But I hope this helps you get everything you need to know to get your diet in order and set up. And then if you want to hear more about training as well, just actually building muscle and seeing those visual changes, I'm gonna leave a link in the description to another video. But other than that, yeah, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.